What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the K-Series Car YouTube channel. Today is Wednesday, and I'm going to try to get this video out tonight, but it is on a clutch install. So we're going to learn today how to, well, I already know how. You guys are going to learn, if you already don't know, how to properly install a clutch and flywheel. So let's get right into it. So over here we have our old clutch and flywheel. In these two boxes, this is extraordinarily large, I don't know why, we have our new ones. So I'm going to go ahead and unbox those and then show you guys the parts of them and what they should come with. So for your information, this is what a destroyed clutch looks like. Right? And this is what a new clutch and flywheel look like. Nice and clean, right? This one's a little bit dirty right now, but I'm gonna have to clean it all off. So, if you already don't know the parts of a clutch, you probably shouldn't be installing one. Like always, leave it up to a professional-ish. I consider myself partially professional. So, here we have our clutch alignment tool. This is an old one because that's an Acura motor in that car, so the one that they send you is not correct, but because they send one for a Honda motor, but this is an Acura one, and this is what you're going to use to align your clutch disc. Okay, moving on. This is your clutch disc, or your little disc with the material stuff all over it, right? That's the important one. See what I mean there? Yeah, okay. But so this is your friction disc. Okay, people call it different things, clutch disc, this, that. Friction disc is what it's actually called. Okay, so as you can see here, there will be a little sticker that says flywheel side on it. You can remove that if you choose. And then you're going to notice that the side that's not on the flywheel is going to stick out a lot. Okay, for pretty much all clutches, but every single clutch should have a sticker on it. But they should stick out more on this side. Moving on, it should come with a new throwout bearing. Okay, this is the bearing that is going to be on your pressure plate right here. When you press the clutch down to the floor, that's going to push on this and separate everything so you can shift into a different gear. Alright, moving on. This is clearly called the pressure plate. Pressure is applied here, which pulls this away from the friction disc, okay? And that's the, I mean, this is a pretty simple piece right here. There's not much to explain. But those are the parts of the clutch. Now for the install. Alright guys, first step here. Ignore the jack. That's because the motor's being only held up by one mount on the other side right now, and I wanted to have a little bit more support. But first step, grab your flywheel, okay? I'm going to go ahead and clean this surface off from all the other guck that was on it before. And your flywheel is pretty much going to just sit right on there, okay? And then there's going to be, depending on what car you have, this car particularly has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts. Some may have 6, some may have 8, some may have 10, I don't know. So you're going to take your flywheel and just put it on there, and I like to hand tighten all of the bolts first, okay? Don't tighten them down with an impact. Don't do any of that stuff. Just hand tighten them. And also, what I like to do is on every single one of these bolts, use a little bit of Loctite just to ensure that they're all going to stay on. I don't see why they wouldn't if they're torqued correctly, but use Loctite just in case. I like to take that precaution, especially with a clutch, super important part of the car, and you have to pull the transmission off if something breaks. So use Loctite, prevent as many problems as you possibly can prevent. Alright guys, so once you have all of those bolts in, finger tightened, you're going to take a torque wrench and set it to the correct foot-pound or Newton meter that your car uses. I believe this car uses 77. I mean, I look it up every time because I forget. But before you tighten them with that, you want to make sure that this flywheel is not going to spin the crank either, well, in this case clockwise, because if you do that you could jump timing. Now what you do to stop that is, well, mine has a bunch of holes in it, so you can pretty much just stick like a I don't even know, something in there. But the proper way to do it is go on the other side of the crank to where the crank pulley is, and just put a wrench or something on there that will stop it from spinning, okay? And then hold both of them and torque this side at that time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and torque them all down to spec. And you want to make sure you don't just torque in a circle like this. You want to torque in like a star pattern pretty much. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that pretty much. Or however many you have, just do it in a star pattern. So like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, stuff like that. So just act like it's a clock and just do it that way, depending on how many bolts you have. So guys, once you get this torqued down, your next step is to clean off where the friction plate is going to be, or friction disc is going to be touching, which in my case is this nice shiny circle. You want that to be as clean as possible to prevent hot spots and stuff like that. Just any problems, okay? Just clean all that off really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then we'll get on to the other parts of the actual clutch. Alright guys, so once you get this guy all cleaned off, right, nice and clean and shiny, you're going to take your little tool, okay, that comes in the package, right? Then you're going to take your friction disc, okay, right like that, okay, pretty simple so far. You're going to stick that in this hole, okay? I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so it's in the hole, right? So then you're going to go over here and stick it where the pilot bushing should be, or bearing, whatever you want to call it. Don't forget, if you don't have a pilot bushing or bearing, stick that in there. That's what's going to align your clutch and your transmission, all of the above. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this in here, and hopefully it goes in well. It's going to be a tight fit. That's what she said. But yeah, just put it in the hole. So guys, as you can see, right, it's aligned, perfectly aligned all the way around. It should be touching the flywheel right now, okay? So then you're gonna go over here to this plate, the pressure plate. You're gonna clean this surface off, make sure it is clean. Then you're going to stick it over that, right up here. Stick it over the little alignment tool, leave the alignment tool in. Then you're going to hand tighten all, well, in this case, 6 of those bolts around there, okay? Hand tighten them right now. So guys, once you get them tightened by hand, what I like to do is just take a wrench and tighten them all in a star pattern under a couple of foot-pounds, or what you think is a couple of foot-pounds under the actual torque spec. Then go with your torque wrench and tighten every single one in a star pattern right down to their torque spec. Now I believe on this is 26 for the K24 or 19. I'm going to check back on that. Make sure you know your torque specs. You can find them on the internet anywhere. Alright guys, so I've torqued these, all 6 of these, all the way in a star pattern, or a clock pattern. I don't know, 12, 6, 9, 3, whatever you want to call it, down to 26 foot-pounds, okay? So, now, you're going to pull this guy out. How you tell if you've done it right, or if she is aligned right, or if it has the correct pilot bearing, or bushing in it, whatever you want to call it, is it's going to pop. So if I pull this out, yeah, made that little poppy noise. Hear that? Yeah. So that's how you know, let me grab a flashlight, that your clutch is all the way aligned throughout everything. Now the only thing that's really needs to be aligned is the friction disc. So as you can see, she's all the way aligned all the way into the block, and now you're ready to put your transmission back on, and that is pretty much how you install a clutch. Very simple. So now guys, for the throwout bearing, you got this little guy right here, okay? And take your throwout bearing, the little pin, walk on over here. Grab your bearing. I like to grease the back side of this bearing just to be safe with it. You don't really want to grease anything in here. I just like to grease the back of this bearing a little bit, just to make sure nothing is getting all frictiony. Do not grease the front of the bearing. Leave that alone because it's a bearing. You don't want anything to get in it, even though it is grease and it probably wouldn't hurt it. Just don't do it. Just leave this free. So I like to grease the back. You don't have to if you don't want to. Then I'm gonna go do that and then stick it on and show you guys how to do all this situation. So now that I've greased the back of the bearing, got it sitting over there. All clutches should have this little clip, right? There's gonna be a little hole in the little foot that comes off of it. I don't know really what you call this. Forgot the name right now, but this is pretty much where the slave cylinder presses, and then it's gonna press that throwout bearing against the pressure plate, releasing all pressure on the clutch, so then you can shift your gear. So pretty much this guy, just gonna take it, slide it in like this, right? There's only one way it can go in, so you can't really mess this up. Then you're gonna pull the little teeth together, right? And there's gonna be little holes down here that it should clip right into, just like that. It's harder to do with one hand, but see, now you can see that they're on the outside. They're in those little holes, crevices, whatever you want to call it. Then I'm gonna take this little guy, right? Helps to clean it off first. Everything's just gonna get dirty anyways, though, and I just recently cleaned this. It really isn't that dirty. Then you're gonna take your throwout bearing right over here. Just goes on one way. Literally just slide it on like that, right? And then it's stuck there. Okay, stuck there forever because it's got these two little teeth on it. And then pretty much what you're gonna do, this is the hard part. I can't do this with one hand, but you're gonna slide this whole thing around and you can angle the throwout bearing to where it slides on the shaft back here, and that's about it. So I'm gonna do that and then show you guys the finished product. Alright guys, so I pushed it on there, and then you're gonna hear a little pop when it pops all the way in. Then when you go out here and press where the slave cylinder is gonna press, right like that, she should just slide right out. Then, well, you can't, there's no pressure on it, so it doesn't slide back in, but then it should just slide right back in. And that's how it's done.